Students, let's discuss today one of the important topic of computer graphics, that is fractals. You know many of the examples of fractals. The most favorite or important out of that are Hilbert curve and Koch curves. So that we'll see in today's lecture. So far we have discussed how to draw geometrical figures such as lines, polygons, circles, and smooth curved surfaces. However, in nature we come across the rough or jagged surfaces or the random surfaces and edges when we try to draw different shapes like mountains, trees, rivers, and so on. So there is no perfect shape or particular shape for this to draw such things or such objects. So we draw these things using fractals. So these are nothing but the complex picture which are created using iterations or some formulas. And the most favorite or most useful day-to-day life example of this is nothing but mountains or trees, rivers, okay, which uh, which are nothing but the rough or random surfaces, jagged surfaces, okay, and such a rough, jagged or random surfaces are called as a fractals. So let let us see the concept involved in drawing the fractal images. So first, out of that, let's see the classification of types of fractals. This is the classification of fractals. Fractals can be classified mainly into these three types: self-similar, self-affine, and invariant. So what do you mean by self-similar fractals? So these fractals have parts, those are scaled down versions of the entire object. You know the Now you know the transformation scaling is, in which we scale our object on different axes according to a user's need, right? So similar similar concept or similar term is there in the second type also, but with some variation. So in this particular self similar fractals, object subparts are constructed by applying a scaling parameters to the overall initial shape. So it is a choice of user to use the same scaling factors for all subparts, or use different scaling factors for different scaled down parts of the object. Another subclass of the same of this self similar fractals is statistically self similar fractals, okay, which is a subpart of this is the statistical self similar fractals, so in which user can also apply random variations to the scale down subparts. So these fractals are commonly used to model trees, shrubs, and other plants, okay, which are having the rough surfaces, or which can which you can see and feel as the rough surfaces, random surfaces, okay. So for this purpose we generally use this type of fractals. Then the second type, self-affine fractals. So this type of fractals have parts, those are formed with different scaling parameters, uh, right, like sx, sy, sz in different coordinate directions, okay. So you can apply your random variations there in this fractals You can also apply random variations to obtain statistically self-affine fractals. So these are commonly used to model, say for example, water. If you want to show the waves of water, clouds, okay, and terrain, so in that case you can use this type of fractals. And the third type of fractal is the invariant fractals. So in this fractals, non-linear transformation is basically used, and it includes self-squaring fractals. Okay, the example of these is nothing but the you can imagine like a Hilbert curve, in which you get the curve in a form of squares, right? So these are nothing but the invariant factors. Okay, and one more example of this is the Mandelbrot set. Okay, is the example of this, which are formed with a squaring function in complex space and self inverse fractals from uh, which are having the form with inversion procedures. Okay, so these are very important types or classifications of the fractals that you have to remember. Then the next part is the fractal dimension. So to draw these fractals we have to use two dimensions. One is the topological dimension and the second one is the fractal dimension. So out of this, fractal dimension is one of the most important concept. So it is nothing but, or it is used to measure, or it is a measure of roughness, we can say, or fragmentation of an object. Okay, and it is more it is used, or it is a second measure of an object dimension. Suppose if imagine that you have a line segment of length L is divided into n identical pieces. So the length of each line segment L can be given as, now how you can get the length of each line segment. So you can get it as a L is equal to L by n. Okay, L is equal to L by n, like this. L is equal to capital L by n, right? So what is the capital L? Capital L is the length of your total line segment, and n are nothing but the identical pieces. Okay, the ratio of the length of original line segments and the length of each part of line segment is referred to as a scaling factor, and is given as, so it is given as S is equal to L by capital L by small l. So this is what? This is the ratio of length of original line segment and the length of each part of the line segment, and it is nothing but what? It is your scaling factor. So by this formulas, by these calculations, you can calculate the fractal dimension. More fractal dimension in case of more jagged looking objects. Using some iterative procedure, we can calculate the fractal dimension D. right? So generally we use generally it is final formula for this. You can remember d is equal to log of n by log of s. Okay, what it is? It is d is equal to log of log of n, capital N, by log of s, scaling factor that we have seen right now. Okay, getting it? So that d is nothing but your fractal dimension. The most favorite example or most important examples of these fractals are nothing but Koch curve. And how you get this Koch curve? This can be drawn by dividing line into 4 equal segments with scaling factor 1 by 3, and middle 2 segments are so adjusted that they form adjacent sides of an equilateral triangle. Okay, like, let me show you. So each of the line is divided into 4 equal parts like this. Okay, having the scaling dimension or scaling factor as 1 by 3 to each of the part, like this. Okay, each part is having equal scaling factor 1 by 3. Okay, so by this manner you draw the Koch curves, and they are also known as a snowflake pattern. Okay, and generally their dimension is approximately 1.2619. Okay, so remember this fractal dimension of Koch curve, it is 1.2619. These are the examples of or these are the types, or we can say the first approximation of Koch curve, the second approximation of Koch curve, and the third approximation of Koch curve. This is first approximation, this is second, and this is third. Okay, likewise for n approximation, the next diagram is there. This is the nth approximation of the Koch curve. Okay, so how we get it? To apply the second approximation to the Koch curve, we have to repeat the procedure or the process I have told you right now. For each of the 4 segments, right, means one segment we have divided into 4 segments. Again, those 4 segments we have to sub equally divide into 4 segments. Okay, and the resultant curve will has more wiggles, and its length is 16 by 9 times the original length. Okay, that is for the second approximation of the Koch curve. Okay, so from this diagrams of Koch curves we have seen right now, so the most important points we have to note about these Koch curves are nothing but each repetition increases the length of the curve by factor 4 by 3. Second point is length of curve is infinite. Unlike the Hilbert curves, it doesn't fill an area. It doesn't deviate much from its original shape. If we reduce the scale of the curve by 3, we find the curve that looks just like the original one, but we must assemble four such curves to make the original. So we have 4 is equal to 3 raised to d. Okay, like I'll write the example here. Sorry. 4 is equal to 3 raised to d. Okay, so solving for d, what we get? We get it as d is equal to log 4 by log 3. Okay, what we get? We get d is equal to log 4 by log 3. Okay, and it is approximately 1.2619. Okay, so therefore for Koch curve, topological dimension is 1, but fractal dimension is 1.2619. So that you have to remember. So from this all of this discussion, what we can say, that the point sets, curves and surfaces which give a fractal dimension greater than the topological dimension are called as a fractals. Okay, in which the fractal dimension is more than the topological dimension. Okay, we can also form the, or we can also generate the fractal lines. Okay, so for this, what are the steps we are having? For this, what are the steps we are having? Suppose we are having a straight line segment which is specified by 2 points, that is x1 y1 z1 and x2 y2 z2. So what we have to do, we have to find out their midpoints. How we can find out the midpoints? x1 plus x2 by 2, y1 plus y2 by 2 and z1 plus z2 by 2. Okay, then what we have to do, we have to add an offset to the midpoint such that the resultant midpoint should not lie on the other on the line itself. Okay, so how we can achieve this? This can be achieved by adding offset term to each coordinates as follows. Like right now we have taken the midpoint coordinates as x1 plus x2 by 2. इसमें ऐड करना है dx which is a offset. Okay, so x1 plus x2 by 2 plus dx, y1 plus y2 by 2 plus dy and z1 plus z2 by 2 plus dz. So by this manner we can draw or we can generate fractal lines. How we can generate it? Firstly, we have to find out the midpoints and then we have to add the offset in it. Okay, the next popular example of the fractals is nothing but Hilbert curves. So what do you mean by Hilbert curves? In this diagram specifically you can see or you can get the basic idea of Hilbert curves. So the Hilbert curves can be constructed by the successive approximations. Okay, like if a square is divided into 4 quadrants, we can draw the first approximation to Hilbert curve by connecting the center points of each quadrant. Okay, as shown in the figure. You can see here the 4 quadrants, the center points of the quadrants, which we have drawn, we have connected with the drawn lines. Okay, and by that manner we get the first approximation of the Hilbert curve, right? Now how we can add it into more, so how we can get the second approximation of the Hilbert curve? So this is the diagram for that. So diagram of second approximation to Hilbert curve, it can be drawn by further subdividing each of the quadrant and connecting their centers before moving to next major quadrant, right? Again we have subdivided each of the quadrant into sub quadrants. Okay, again we have found out the center points of those quadrants, and we have connected it with the lines, with the line segments. Okay, so by the similar manner you can get the third approximation of the Hilbert curves. Okay, third approximation, which subdivides the quadrants again. We can draw third approximation to Hilbert curves by connecting the centers of the finest level of quadrants before stepping to the next level of the quadrant. So this is, in this diagram you can see it as a third approximation to Hilbert curve. Okay, so these two basic types of curves are the most used and most popular examples of the fractals. Okay, so from these three approximations of Hilbert curve, which points you have to remember about the Hilbert curves? That uh, if we infinitely extend the approximations to the Hilbert curves, the curve fills the smaller quadrants but never crosses itself, right? It never crosses itself. The curve is arbitrarily close to every point in the square. Okay, with a specific distance they are apart from each other. Okay, they are connected with each other. The curve passes through a point on a grid which become twice as fine with each subdivision. Okay, and there is no limit to subdivisions, and therefore the length of the curve is infinite. Okay, with each subdivision length of the curve increases by a factor of 4. Okay, in each iteration we subdivide it into 4 parts, so it is increased by a factor 4, and at each subdivision the scale changes by 2 but the length changes by 4. Therefore for Hilbert curve topological dimension is 1 but the fractal dimension is 2. Again the fractal dimension is more than the topological dimension. So last part of this uh, fractals are nothing but we can generate a line as fractal lines, as well as we can generate a fractal surfaces also. Okay, so there are many ways to accomplish this. So the basic method we use to draw fractal surfaces is the triangle. So using triangles we can easily draw the fractal surfaces. We know that triangle has 3 vertex points. Okay, so we can generate a fractal surface for the area between them, right? uh, right now I don't have a diagram of this particularly, but you can see it in your textbook or you can google it. So For this, we apply the fractal line algorithm to each edge of the triangle, which is divided into two line segments, which is each edge is again divided into two line segments. Okay, and by connecting the halfway points of each line segments, we can divide the original triangle into four smaller triangles. So by that manner we can draw the fractal surfaces. So for today, this is somewhat related to the the term fractals. Okay, so now let's